Hello, it's Gemma Hills from the Anti-Bullying Mum, and I want to talk to you about the whole love-hate relationship thing, friendship thing, that so many of our kids experience, because it's quite, childhood is full of turmoil, isn't it? It's full of learning experiences, and they're navigating emotions, and they're navigating new friendships, and they're experiencing a lot for the first time in a very condensed amount of time, and it can feel quite intense for us as parents as well as for our kids. And one of those times is when they have this friendship where they are either completely in love with each other and they are obsessed. They are the only kids they want to play with. They are the only kids they want round for tea. They're the only kids they talk about. They're happy to exclude everybody else for this one friend. And then within a matter of moments sometimes it flips and they are their worst enemy and they can't believe what they're like and they don't want to have anything to do with them, and you've been there, you know. So I was asked, I've been asked many times, how can we help our kids deal with this? And in my experience, the number one way is to provide them the space to talk and mull things over with you. Quite often, when my girls have come to me and they are sort of on one about other kids, you know, she said this and she did that, my natural instinct is to shut them down. I don't want to hear it, you know, stop telling tales, you all do it, because at the end of the day they're only pointing out things that every child does. It's nothing extreme, and so the natural instinct is to shut the conversation down. You know, you'll be friends again tomorrow. But they're not learning from that. And it doesn't help them to work out why they're so furious. It doesn't help them to work out how to change things, how to be more accepting of their friends, maybe what they're doing themselves. So talking, expressing themselves is always number one. I go on and on and on about it in so many different scenarios, but in this scenario, love-hate relationships is beneficial for both of you, because it will help you to understand where they're at with their friendship and what's going on in their mind and how they are coping and what they're struggling with and what seems really tough for them, what they have no understanding of yet, what you can help develop. You can help them to recognise how their own behaviours impact themselves and others. And then they can see that by that person treating them that way, oh, when I behave that way, this is how other people feel about me. So it's a massive learning curve. I think it's always helpful for the parent and the child to recognise that this type of relationship needs managing at times. It's not one of those relationships that just happen. It's intense at both ends of the spectrum, and it's never a happy medium. It's so intense either way, but so much can be learnt from that. It's not a negative thing at all. So much more can be learnt from a friendship like this. I think when I've been in the situation myself with my daughter, don't try to force the situation. So when they are in the hate phase, when they despise one another and they can't stand the sight of one another, don't try and force that back. They are playing this out for good reason. I'm not a psychologist and I'm not even going to pretend to be, but I do know that I've seen it with my girls and I've seen it with other children, that they are playing this out for a reason, and quite often it's a good way for them to test boundaries with themselves, with the adults around them, with their friends. It helps them to learn how to assert themselves, and it's a really safe experience for them, a really safe place for them to experience all of these tools, these life skills, rather than waiting until their teens and their adult years, when actually the impact of going from loving to hating someone often is more permanent. When you're little, it can be one hour to the next, and so it's safe to do that. I'm just reading my notes here to check that I'm saying everything here. One thing I know that a lot of people are concerned about when it comes to love-hate relationships are frenemies. There is a fine line, and so being aware of that is a really good thing. And as the relationship matures, so may the hate times. The hate may become more intense, more manipulative, more nasty. And so if you're not monitoring it, it could slip into something more difficult. It could slip into the frenemy state, particularly if there's no love time anymore. It's sort of, you hit a hate period of time and they stay stuck there, and the adults in the situation aren't aware of it and don't recognise it, and then it just slips into a situation where actually one becomes more dominant than the other and manipulates, controls, and that is then, there you go, there is the frenemy situation. A really helpful thing to do to help your child, both children in the situation, is to strengthen and expand the friendship circles. The number one reason is so that when they have their fallouts, there is the backup of a bigger group of people. They're not going to feel isolated. They're not going to feel they have to be friends with that person. They have to go against what they're feeling, because otherwise they will be lonely. So other friends, this also shows them that there are different types of friendships, so they can start to learn about those, that actually not all friendships are so intense, and that you can just plod along with people, and it doesn't have to be you're completely one way or the other. Massive thing that I do, that I know so many parents do, and it's really beneficial, but often gets put to the bottom of the list because there's 101 other things we need to do and discuss with our kids before we think of this. But regularly discussing respect, boundaries, expectations, and what makes a good friend. Discussing those on a regular basis for you personally, so they can draw from you what they agree with, and helping them explore what that means for them. So what expectations do they have of people? What makes a good friend to them? Why they think they are a good friend? Boundaries, what is and isn't okay for how their friends treat them, for the adults around them. All sorts of scenarios can come up with that, and you can use so many opportunities when you're out and about. You will, the films, the things that come up on the radio, the conversations you overhear, just trigger the little snippets you can have with them about, do you think that makes a good friend, or how do you think that would make that person feel? It just helps them explore how they feel and how they may be making other people feel as well. So that was a bit of a rambled one, but I hope it helps anyway, and I will speak to you very soon. Take care.